We are working on another project today in our Beneteau Antares 11 flybridge. Today we're going to be working on a diesel fuel gauge. And a quick note of thanks to T-Rez from the channel. Thanks Tony for the sign, looks great here next to the boat. So another annoying design flaw, I believe, or poor planning on these Antares that have a diesel generator. So here we're down in the lazarette. There's your Fisher Panda diesel. There is the disconnect switches for the generator. And on top is the fuel gauge for the diesel tank, which is located around the corner that way. It's only like a 10 or 12 gallon tank, so not very big. So you go through fuel quick. It only lasts maybe a couple nights. But a really odd location to be putting a fuel gauge. To check the fuel, typically you need to move this ladder back to gain access to the lazarette hatch and lift that up just to take a look at that fuel gauge. And being it's such a small tank, it's nice to know how much fuel I have left after every time I use it, and it just doesn't make sense to have it down in the lazarette here. So my plan is to relocate that gauge from there into the boat at a more logical location over here, right by the generator control panel. There's plenty of space either above or below it to drill a small 2-inch hole, whatever size gauge that is, mounted in here. So now all we have to do is run, there's 3 conductors that are supplying that gauge. So I need to run 3 wires from that location all the way through the boat to here. So to snake the wire, it's not too difficult once you know how to do it. This is the utility closet. You can snake your wires through here. I already have a drag. I ran a line through it. You see this white line. It runs back there along those other wires. Now what I did was use a long wire hanger to push the wire from the location here in the mid-berth. I have all the cushions off already. So you take the cushions off this mid-berth seat back here, you unscrew this panel, and you gain access to this wire loom right here. So you can see where the string comes from. That's where that utility closet is. So I just stuck the hanger up in there, grabbed it, and was able to pull the string through there. It's easy enough once you get access to this panel here to run the wire here. I'll run it through here, and this string is going down in here and snakes its way down there. And then I took this panel off. Here's the waste tank, the pump on top. It gives you access to that grommet right there, which is right next to the generator inside the lazarette. So I pushed the line through there, the drag, and snaked it along. The hardest part was really getting it from this location up to here, but using the wire hanger, that really helped out. So let me show you that line in the lazarette. We're back down the lazarette, and there's that grommet that we saw just on the other side of the wall. So we could pull the wires through that small grommet that we need up to this gauge. We get access through this panel here, which is just 4 screws. These here are just quarter turn. There's 4 of them. This falls forward. You be careful because some of the plugs come out. These little plastic things tend to fall out. That lock them in there. And here's the connector for the gauge. Okay, we have removed the gauge. I'm going to keep all this together just like that. I'm going to keep that plug on. I'm not going to cut that. I'm going to cut the wires in this loom, and I'll just make the splice point in here so it'll daisy chain up in here. So it'll just be a few butt connectors for the 3 wires that are inside this loom here. I got 2 reds and a black. Make sure you don't mix them up. And I'll just move this whole portion that gets plugged in right behind the gauge. I'll move it up into that utility closet so I have easy access to it. Appears to be a fuse in there. And don't know what that is, if that might be an inline fuse. Everything's fused. There's so many fuses on this boat. So we'll just move that up into the utility closet, and we'll just keep the connectors down here. All right, we are slowly snaking the wire all the way through, and I think I'm going to be a little short on wire, but we'll see what happens. All right, so I'm a little short on wire, so I'm not going to do the splice up in this box here. I'm going to do an inline splice here. So I pulled the wires out of the bottom of the box here. These are the old wires going to the sender. I'm going to cut these somewhere around here so I can make the splice and cover it up with the wire loom on this side. You can see these wires going up that way. I have the black wire loom pushed up all the way up against the bulkhead. And I also, for future, I pulled a couple speaker wires that I had laying around. Who knows what we'll use those for in the future. But 16 gauge wire. So if I ever need anything run again, I have some of these wires here already. So all right, we just have to be careful not to get the two reds mixed up on this end. So I tied a piece of vinyl tape around it so I know which is which. And I could differentiate the wires on this side. So let me do the inline splice right here, tidy everything up with tie wraps, and finish up here in the bilge. I'll just have to get a little cover for that too. A knockout plug. It looks like a 2-inch knockout. All right, wires are spliced, tidied up with tie wraps again. You can't even see where I spliced it. It's underneath that wire loom right there. Here's the wires tucked underneath and heading out through the bulkhead back there. And here's my spare speaker wire for future, just tucked up in there. Who knows what I'll use that for next. Okay, moving over to the location, the new location for the fuel gauge. This is a nice spot here. Don't know if I have enough room to put it there. Gotta check behind the panel or down here. Let's see what we got. All right, looking up inside the utility closet, we got some room right there. Or we could, my preferred location would be like right there, just to the left of that other panel and above the control panel, which would be right there. It's funny, I don't know if you saw this tape hanging in there when in the last clip, but I needed some painter's tape before I drill the hole right here. Helps protect the finish when you do this before drilling. All right, time to drill holes. Got my 2-inch hole saw bit in my Milwaukee. Just like that. I got a dusty hole. Plenty of room back there. All right, we're gonna fish our wires through the hole, hook everything up, and then button her up. She looks sweet right there, where it should have been from the beginning. Beneteau, get your act together. All right, we're getting ready for the last step, splicing up the end of the wires. I barely have enough. I got spools of 20 feet of wire, 2 spools of red and a spool of black, and 20 feet is just barely enough cutting corners where I did. So you need at least 25, 30 feet to play it safe if you're gonna do this project, so you're not pulling your hair out like I did. But let's get it spliced up, fire her up, and check it out. All right, our wires are run and routed and tie wrapped. And our fuel gauge is working. Showing full. And I have my spare wires, speaker wires here. Here's our amp right here, if I wanted to add more speakers. All right, pretty good. Looking good. Another project done on the Antares 11. Nothing's easy on this boat. Thanks for watching, guys. Got any questions? Leave them in the comments.